Hello, good data people. My name is Greg and I run Data Independent, and welcome to day one of 30 days of Data Viz. In this video, we're going to be looking at how to make a multi-line time series chart and go over some of the decisions I made when making this chart. Now, my goal for this video is, well, I want to get better at data viz, and I want you to help me. And so I'm going to show you the chart, show you some of the decisions that I made, and I want to see what you think. I'm going to share this to Twitter afterwards. And as a part of the bigger 30 days of data viz, I'm encouraging others to do, well, 30 days of data viz, making one data visualization per day for 30 days. Well, let's jump into day one here. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a line chart, and it's going to be the number of benches installed in New York City over time. And we're going to split it off by the 5 different boroughs, which is going to be cool to see. Now, what you're looking at here is the end result, or the overall process. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to show you how to make this and some of the decisions I made along with it. Now, I made this with a public data set, and you can download or even just open this Google Colab notebook and get all the data and code yourself. And then I also was using Matplotlib for the visualization. Now, what you probably know about Matplotlib is it's pretty easy, it has good functionality, but it doesn't look the best. It just doesn't look as polished as you may want it. So in other videos, we're going to do a whole lot more. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and let's look at the data that produces this, and then let's remake this chart in the first place. And I'm actually just going to start from scratch. So let's go ahead and delete that. Okay, good. So this is what the data looks like that is underneath the data here. What it's going to be is our index is going to be our dates, which is going to be the x-axis, and our columns are going to be the 5 different boroughs. And so Bronx, Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, and Staten Island. Now the data itself is going to be the cumulative number of benches that were in that area before, or in the area at that date. Now, if I go up here to the top, I can show you what the actual data looked like. And you can see here, it's basically a row per bench and when it was installed and all this. And I go through some little transformation process, which I won't go over here, but the end result is going to be this, and you're going to see how many benches were at that location for a specific time. For example, on 2012, April 1st, there was 10 benches in Brooklyn. And then on April 14th, there was 13 benches in Brooklyn. So that means that there was 3 benches installed on April 14th, because that's the new value here. So let's go ahead and let's start to just plot this data and see what we have here. So if I go ahead and plot this, let me zoom out. So it looks like it's still loading. So it says I need to run all. This is just going to run everything, and then it's going to rerun this one down here for me. So there we go. So here's our default chart that we have, and you can see that it's okay. We don't have an axis over, we don't have a label over here. We don't have a label down here. No titles. The colors colors aren't bad, but we're gonna make this a little bit better. So the first thing that I want to do is I'm going to increase the fig size. And so fig size in Matplotlib is going to be how big your plot is. And I like 12 by 8 because that's it just kind of feels like a good size here. So we make it bigger. Fabulous. Next thing I want to do is I want to make these lines just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say line width equals 4. Fabulous. You can see the lines are just a little bit wider. And then I'm going to say font size equals 15. Now, these tick marks are just a little bit small, I think, and so I'm going to make them just a little bit bigger because I'm optimizing for readability in this one. And then the other thing is I want to switch the colors. So I have some predetermined colors here. And the way that I like to pick my colors, these may seem like they're just random right here, but what I like to do is I like to go to Cooler, coolers.co. They have a good little service over here, and you can actually just click on this, make a palette, and it'll give you a random palette. And if you don't like it, well, then you can generate a new palette and just go from there. Or explore palettes, which is really cool. And then you can just pick colors that go together and that you may want to use for your data viz. In fact, this one's pretty cool. Anyway, so let's go back over here. I have these colors. I'm going to switch the colors on me. And you'll see that I have 5 different colors for my 5 different boroughs. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do there. Now, for my next customizations, I'm actually going to go outside of pandas because you'll see here that we have our data frame, but then we have our plot right on top of it. And I found that the next customizations I want to do, I'm going to pull it outside of Matplotlib. And so the first one I'm going to do is make the legend a little bit bigger because this legend is a little bit small for me. Let's go ahead and do that. Looks good. The legend's bigger. All right, now I'm actually going to add an X label because right now I just have install ADI, which is the name of the column that was used for the X axis or the index, which that doesn't tell me anything. It doesn't tell the viewer anything. So I'm going to switch this. And this is actually going to be called, it's actually not bench install date. This is actually what I'm going to just call date. It's really just date. And you'll see that I make the size 20 and then the font name is going to be this special one. And you can actually go look up at Google Colab. No, you just say matplotlib default font. And then you can see what the default fonts are and basically how to switch them. So that's how you do that. Let's add a Y axis or a Y label. So you see we just added the X label. I'm going to add a Y label, and the Y label is going to be cumulative number of benches at that specific date. Same thing with the font and the font size. Great. And then of course we need to add a title so that somebody can really understand what this chart means in the first place. Benches installed over time per borough. So whenever I make my chart titles, I like to make it as descriptive as possible about the chart itself. Now, usually in one step even better is going to do the takeaway. The takeaway could be Brooklyn leads number of benches in 2020 or something along those lines, whatever it may be. In this case, I'm going for the literal description, which is literally what the chart shows. Go ahead and run this title. Great, looks fabulous. And then the other thing I noticed too, which I didn't love, is that you see here how down here at the origin, down here at the origin of the data, there's a little bit of buffer between that and the actual x-axis and the actual y-axis. And so I want to switch that and I want to remove that buffer. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set an x-lim, which stands for x-limit. And what that means is that basically I'm setting, right now you can see here that the x-limit, its lowest limit is, call it November 2011. Well, I want the x-limit to be around April 1st, 2014 or 2012 because that's my first date. And then the upper limit is going to be 19/11/01, which will be somewhere right around there. And watch what happens to this buffer or this margin or padding. I'm not sure which one it is when I get rid of it. I squeeze it all the way to the corner because this X limit has been stretched or condensed down right there. I'm going to do the same thing for the Y lim, which is the Y limit, because I want to get rid of this vertical margin or padding right there. And I'm going to set it at 0 to 800. Good, get rid of that. So now it truly does look like it's starting right there. And then the last thing I'm going to do, and this one's a bit debatable whether or not I need it, but I'm just going to include it just for fun, is I'm going to apply a grid, which means you're going to apply the grid lines. Now, I don't want both X and Y. Let me show you what both X and Y looks like. The default is both, and so it'll show you both. It's a little bit too busy for me with these vertical ones, and so I'm only going to do the Y axis, which will give me just the horizontal lines, which, so then you get a little bit, like for example right here, it's like, oh, how many does Manhattan have? Well, I can see that clearly maps to 500 super easily. So there we go. So that is our day one, 30 days of data visualizations with a multi-line chart. Now look back for other types of charts, and then also we're going to be using a ton of different tools from Seaborn, maybe even a little bit of D3, and we're going to make these look really good, almost presentation ready. Thank you very much for watching, and look out for day number 2.